This is the Truth Network.
Bible Wonders of Habakkuk. No, we get to shed some light today with the Nun verse of the second chapter of Habakkuk, and that would be the 14th verse. And you may remember the letter Nun has much to do with faith, as the letter that begins the word faithful. But also in the 119th Psalm, very cool if you think about it, the very first verse in the Nun section is, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path." And so I hope that as you look at this verse, you can see the light that's involved. I think it's pretty front and center, and it's pretty nice that we get this little respite here after hearing all the woes and woes and woes. Here we finally get some light, and big time do we get some light. And again, it speaks to our faith that don't worry, it's coming. And so the 14th verse in the second chapter reads, "For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." What a glorious, literally glorious verse. And I'm sure that you can see all the light involved in this verse that certainly does a whole lot for my faith. And it's pretty exciting to think about what it says. And don't you think it's interesting? And by the way, from my standpoint, what it says at the end of that verse in Hebrew is what it says in English, that the waters cover the sea. So it's kind of an interesting thing that when you really think about the Bible, it's all an undercover story. As from the point in time that man sinned, right, we've had a cover problem. And so we need to be covered in the blood of Christ. And so it's interesting. It says as the waters, and that idea of mime is the word water in Hebrew. And then sea also has to do with water. But, you know, it's kind of neat that the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, and that word knowledge in Hebrew, as you might know, is yada. And you may also know that it's a very intimate word. And so we're going to be intimate, like the idea of, like, you know, Adam knew Eve, and the next thing you know, you got Cain, right? So the whole earth is going to be filled with the knowledge, with an intimate understanding of God's glory. Like the waters cover the sea, and it's pretty cool to think that the whole world is going to be covered in the knowledge of the glory of God. And, you know, as I was studying that this morning and just thinking about it, it just lit up my world, I'll be honest, because I saw something that honestly I could have told you probably how to spell the word glory in Hebrew before I studied this verse. But somehow or another, I just never saw the significance of the fact that the word glory in Hebrew ends with the letter Dalet. And that letter Dalet in Hebrew has to do really with dirt poor and service, right? The first verse in the Dalet section is, "My soul cleaves to the dust." But it has to do with love, and it has to do with service. You know, the beloved, Dalet Vav Dalet in the Song of Solomon, that Dalet is it very much part of being a shepherd. That again, as Jesus, you know, here he just come back for the resurrection. He was the King of Kings and all that stuff. But what do you see him doing there on the beach when he goes to talk to the disciples? He's serving them. He's serving them fish. And so the glory of the Lord has a lot to do with this idea of this servant. It ends with the Dalet because, you know, very much the glory of God is the fact that his love is there to serve us, and it very much covers us, right? I mean, we are covered in the blood of Christ. We're covered in his glory, so to speak, in his service. And so it's really, really cool that we're going to be intimate with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, but we would be remiss if we don't talk about the first letter in the word glory, which is a hoof, which has to do with this phenomenal desire. And along those lines, I have to tell the story that I've told many times. But, you know, when I looked at this verse, I went, oh, I get this one. I see this at a really cool level when I see that the word glory ends in a Dalet, and I'll tell you why. That in the year 2005, right before Christmas, and I have this in my journal, I was praying actually about the previous verse. I was trying to catch that carrot. And Chrysler had me all stirred up, and I was praying about a lot of things that mostly had to do with Chrysler Financial and how I saw things coming, to a head with Chrysler and some other things. And I was praying very, very earnestly. But in all my years of praying, I've never had God show up and scare me. But I often think that this is the Psalmic Lord, that he can show up and almost make you wet yourself. That's the best way I know to put it. But when he showed up that day, it terrified me. I mean, it was like, oh, my goodness. And when he showed up, I'd sensed his presence. And this was in the middle of the night, like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm praying as earnestly as I can about, again, chasing the carrot, which is hilarious when I think about it now. But that's what I was praying about. And he shows up, as I said, in that psalmic kind of thing. And he scared me. And he said, Robbie, what do you want? And I completely glibly answered him, like, because I was so scared. I just said, well, I just want to serve you, Lord. And he was gracious with his answer. It was not at all what I felt any condemnation, but he just said, do you? And when he did, I don't know if you've ever seen the scene in Evan Almighty where the file cabinet comes out from the wall and stretches clear across. But anyway, that is exactly true. There is a book, okay, and it's got every moment of your life in it. I know because I've seen my, life kind of flash when he said, oh, do you? Immediately, all these things flashed in front of my eyes, thing after thing after thing after thing that he had asked me to do for him that I had not done. And there's a book, just to let you know. I know, because I saw all these things, and it was a mind-numbing experience to see this. And I often think of what a gift it was for me that night that I went through this experience. But I saw all these things that he had asked me to do, and when I was looking at them, rather than feel condemnation, all of a sudden I felt this tremendous hope, because every one of them was something that I was supposed to do relationally. I was supposed to call this person. I was supposed to go have lunch with this. I was supposed to send a letter to, all these things that were relational. And as I thought about them, I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. Oh man, I need to do that. That's exactly what I need to do. And so I got so excited. I got a pen and a paper, got up and went in the bathroom and started writing down all the things that I'd seen, because I didn't want to lose them. I wanted to do all this stuff because I figured, well, okay, I'm getting it straight from Jesus's mouth on what it is that I'm supposed to be doing to serve him. And it was all things that I could do, and it was just so wonderful. So I get that all written out as best as I can remember in the short period of time he showed me what he showed me. And I went back to bed, and I began to just pray again, saying, God, this is so amazing. I know I can do this stuff, and I'm going to do it. I am excited. I'm so grateful for these good works that you have for me to do in advance. I was just so excited to be able to do this. And as I was repenting and enjoying all that, all of a sudden, I began to see what this verse is talking about. I began to see the glory of God. And I don't know how to explain it, except there's a color gold that is prettier than gold, okay? And it's this light that's brighter than anything you've ever seen. And oh my goodness, I started to see it. And here it came, this unbelievable gold, this light. And I began to realize I was going to see Jesus's face. And I just got amazingly excited. Like, I'm going to see his face. I'm going to, so excited. And so I woke up my wife, Tammy, shook her. Tammy, we're going to see his face. Jesus is in the room. And I'm going to see we're going to see his face. Of course, Tammy, she just, told like, what are you talking about? Just kind of killed the moment, honestly. And I, almost immediately what, was going to be this glorious thing just dissipated, and it wasn't there. And so I was a little dejected, honestly, having just lost the biggest moment that I could ever remember, just coming up on the horizon. However, Jesus' sense of humor is so wonderful. I'll never forget this as long as I live. I know, hopefully I won't forget it for eternity. But I laid back down again prayerfully, and I'm like, what, I just help me understand. And Jesus kind of winked at me as only Jesus can wink at you. And he said, now, Robbie, do you know what you want? I've never forgotten that, and I never will forget it. That what we want, and it's down there deep inside of you, and it has to do with his glory. I don't know how it all fits together in Hebrew, but I know this much, that The word glory begins with a hoof for a very good reason. Number one, it's a crown. But number two, it has to do with these deep, deep desires. And believe me when I tell you, you want to see Jesus's face. It's in there like Prego spaghetti sauce. It's something you want. And that has everything to do with what the whole world is going to be receiving, this desire that we see in the 145th Psalm, that God is going to fulfill the desire of every breathing thing. And I can assure you, for those of us breathing when the time comes, when he decides to cover the earth with his glory, oh my goodness, will it be a desire fulfilled? And then the second letter in the word glory is a bet, which has to do with the desire to an extent for home. So you see this crown. The idea of the crown is it covers, and it has to do with desire. And again, that you can see that when he says that the glory of God is the intimate knowledge of the glory of God is going to cover the earth like the waters cover the sea. And again, it's speaking to this idea of a cover, because again, the whole Bible is to an extent helping us see how God has got us covered. I was thinking about it. We don't want to step on the scale and weigh and be found wanted, right? We need some cover. And that is the glory of God. I mean, oh my goodness. And how cool is it when you think about it, that part of that cover is the way he is serving, the way he is loving us. And so as we think about that and process that, right, we can be that for others. We can get them covered. We can serve them with however God puts it on our heart to serve them, to give them light, however God gives it to us to be able to give them light. And one of the ways that obviously you might be able to know that I'm going to aim this to is to say, you could share this podcast. You can say, man, I know some people that love this kind of thing, that love God, love the Word of God, and they would love this kind of light. So what you do is you just push that little button with it looks like a square with an arrow in it, and that means share, and then just put the person's email address in there, or put their, where you text them, however you work it. Again, I'm just grateful. I am that God gives me these to share, and I'm so grateful for everyone listening. Of course, you can always reach out to me. Would love to talk to you, and thank you again. God bless.